Good afternoon, folks, and thanks for joining us. Welcome to the MMA Sucka Podcast. My name is Tim Wheaton, joined as always by my PFL cohort, Frazer Krohn. Frazer, how you doing today, man?
We did it. Brendan Loughnane, Leon Edwards, Kayla Harrison, predictably, but Brendan Loughnane, Leon Edwards, doing it for the Brits. What a weekend it was for British MMA.
I was watching the Leon Edwards Kamaru Usman fight 5 a.m, something like that. I think we were in the fourth, fifth round, and I thought, oh man, all the headlines this weekend, I guess, is going to be Kayla. She's the one who really stole the show this weekend. Not quite. I spoke too soon. I was
Step
watching
aside,
that
Kayla
fight.
Harrison. No one cares about your Olympic gold medals when Leon Edwards knocked. No, that's complete joke. Leon Edwards, for me, like you say, did predictably steal the headlines, but
Yeah.
I think what we'll do, we'll talk a little bit about PFL, we'll get straight into the UFC, and then we'll do a little bit of Joshua Usyk at the end. And luckily, we've got a week off next week. We've got, one championship, but a week off from UFC or PFL or Bellator action, I think. So, we can look at the one championship card, which is a great card. But yeah, luckily, we can do a lot of reviewing. This is what we do best.
Yeah, it's not till the UFC in Paris, which is going to be on the 3rd, and then so next week, like you said, no UFC. But yeah, so we obviously got the Leon Edwards headlines, we got the Joshua Usyk one, but you were at PFL this weekend here in London. Tell us a little bit more about the PFL event.
Yeah, for sure. So first of all, shout out to PFL. They put on a really, really good event. The staging, it's different from a UFC walkout. You get the fighters kind of walking out through the crowd in the UFC, and not gonna lie, if you haven't got a good seat, you miss them until they get in the octagon. With PFL, it's like a pro wrestling WWE walkout. They walk down the ramp. The whole stage is lit up for the sort of main fighters. You got your Kaylas and your Brendan Loughnanes. It's a big show. Really good production value, I think, and I think in the Copper Box was the right arena to do it. There were a few empty seats, but understandably so. It's if you're not into your MMA, the sort of we just spoke off air, the sort of knucklehead fans might have gone to the bare knuckle event, which unfortunately, guys, if you're here for bare knuckle breakdown, we're not going to give it you. Mike Perry won. That's our bare knuckle chat over and done with. We want to talk about real mixed martial arts on this one. But like I said, if you're a knuckle fan in and around London, you probably go to the bare knuckle event, not the PFL. So there were a few empty seats, but the atmosphere, biggest cheer of the night, predictably Brendan Loughnane. Second biggest cheer of the night, Dakota Ditchever. She had a huge following down from Manchester. And I feel a little bit underwhelmed by Dakota's performance. Not by Dakota's performance, by Dakota's opponent. She wasn't in there to fight, in my opinion. She came out, she swung 2 massive overhand rights, missed them both. Dakota deep kicked her to the floor, got her in the clinch, which is where she did some of her best work with her knees and her elbows, kneed her twice, and she didn't want it anymore. 58 seconds is all we got to see from Dakota Ditcher in a PFL debut, but she makes history as the first PFL flyweight to compete, women's flyweight to compete, and obviously pick up the win. She's going to be a huge star. There's no doubt about it. I interviewed her last week, as you can see on the YouTube channel. She's a great interview, but yeah, ultimately, Hasna Gaber submitted to strikes on a PFL debut in under a minute. Go out on your sword. But that is what it is. Like I say, Brendan Loughnane, huge victory for him. Really, really good performance as well, because he ate that head kick in the first round. Speaking to the media after the fight, someone said, you ate a head kick in the first. He's like, can't remember it. Don't remember it. That's how much of a buzz I was on. And he was, we were in the media room at the back, and he was speaking to a couple of the guys. Being asked a few questions. I personally didn't record it, but I'm sure you can find it on YouTube. And he was saying, look, I wasn't pulling the trigger in my last fights, and in this fight, I pulled the trigger. I could fight Max Holloway or Alexander Volkanovski tonight. I was on tonight, and it showed. 30-27 against Chris Wade, who's seasoned pro. He's had 30 odd fights. I think that was his 30th fight. So 22-8 he's now. So yeah, that was his 30th fight. No disrespect to Brendan Loughnane, but he hasn't had a huge career on the biggest stage. He had that chance on the Contender Series, and now he's beginning to make that name for himself in the PFL.
Mm-hmm.
Huge performance, and then following, the crowd are up, they're bouncing for that one, and then you got Kayla Harrison that just comes in and does her thing.
What
it
was
was
the crowd
never.
reaction like to Kayla?
I mean, the walkout itself was phenomenal from Kayla. You know, she's just got it. Just the music almost fits the fighters themselves. You know, it was just music to get you pumped up straight away. Main event, you know, main card, main event, a place in the final. We just saw Pacheco, you know, score the first round TKO. So Kayla knows who, or Kayla or Ginger over. You know, fair play to Ginger over. But you know, whoever won that fight knew that they were going to face Pacheco in the final. Kayla just went in there and did a thing. The first time it got to the floor, you could tell they was massively, you know, they were massively outmatched on the floor. And then speaking to the media after, you know, she said, "Look, judo gives you a base for knowing how to pull off submissions on the floor. Wrestling doesn't." So, and we saw that, you know, arm triangle choke from Mount in the first round. It's, for me, I would have preferred it to be in the last minute because I would have wanted to see 14 and a half minutes, sorry, of Kayla Harrison just doing her thing. But you know, I only got to see 3 minutes of her doing her thing. We got a treat with Brendan Loughnane going 15 minutes, and the same with Bubba Jenkins. You know, under 2 minutes, that suplex that he landed in the first kind of 30 seconds, 40 seconds, and then
Yeah.
he locked in the rear naked choke against Kudo. Bubba Jenkins versus Brendan Loughnane is going to be an absolutely phenomenal featherweight clash. I thought them two might have had a little bit of beef. You know, Brendan went straight over after before the result was even announced. He went straight over and you know, was pointing through the cage to Bubba Jenkins. But you know, with all respect, the two guys are friends, and you know, Kayla again. She needs to once she retires, she needs to teach seminars on how to do post-fight interviews. Post-fight interview in the cage was phenomenal. I'm the queen, not just of the PFL, not just of the 155-pound division, but of women's MMA. I'm not going to argue with her. She's the queen, you know. I think right now, I haven't seen enough of her striking in recent times to put her on a level with someone like a Cyborg or a Nunes, but I still think she probably beats them because both of those women, not so much Nunes, but Cyborg swings big.
Yes.
And she said she's, you know, when speaking to the media about Larissa Pacheco, you know, Pacheco scored a fifth straight first round knockout.
Yes.
Phenomenal stuff, especially, you know, no disrespect, but especially from women, you don't often see big knockouts like she scores.
Yep.
Someone asked Kayla about that, you know, questioned her on, you know, she scored 5 first round KOs. She's like, okay, as soon as she throws that right hand, I'm shooting. I wouldn't want to see her on the floor. I wouldn't want to be on the floor with Kayla Harrison because she'd take my arm home with her all the way back to Florida. So, yeah, you know, really, really good night at PFL. Really competitive fights throughout. I think one to certainly watch is Simeon Powley. He opened up the main card. He scored a second round TKO. You know, I love a leg kick. And finally, I've seen a leg kick stoppage live. My night was made after the first fight on the main card. Simeon Powell, it was brutal. He landed about 2 or 3 calf kicks in the first round. And then he landed I think it was only about 2 in the second round, and his opponent fell down. Then he told him to get back up, and he could barely get back up, and he landed one more. Referee steps in. That's it. You don't want to. No one wants to see it. I mean, apart from myself, who's a bit of a sicko like that. But you know, I saw a leg kick TKO live. I'm happy. For me, best knockout of the weekend. Forget Leon Edwards. Leon Edwards doesn't exist in my mind. Simeon, no.
But so the good prospect for the future. One interesting thing about Kayla, and it has always struck me, of like you saying she should do seminars on post-fight interviews. Like you're very correct about that. Is she seems someone that the PFL has built their organization around as the main star of the organization, and she is not shy about it in any way. That spotlight that's been thrust upon her, like this, she's got a kind of a stressful life, from like the sexual assault things in the past to the Olympic pressure to her brother passed away and she was forced to adopt children. If she fell apart, like it wouldn't be a big surprise, or isn't able to handle the spotlight. Instead, she thrives in that position. She welcomes the spotlight. She cuts a promo. Then she goes to the back and talks to every person in the media. Like she is a person who is absolutely understands what this industry is. And she might only do it for 2 more years, in all honesty, but she has taken it by storm.
Yeah, without a doubt. And you know, she's now. I think that's why she does so well in the octagon, because her life is, you know, no disrespect, but her life is chaotic outside. You know, you've just listed off the things that she's had to go through already. Yeah. Olympics, you know, and with judo, she said, you know, sometimes I'd only fight once a year or once every 18 months. I'm fighting, you know, 2 or 3 times in a week in the Olympics. Well, so she's used to a chaotic schedule and a chaotic lifestyle. So when she goes in there and someone's throwing strikes at her, she's used to that chaos. Her brain sort of almost, it's almost predetermined that she's going to expect chaos. So when she goes in there and someone's throwing strikes at her, and she can manage that chaos herself. She's got it in her ability to manage the chaos by taking the fight to the floor and doing what she does, where she gets in her wheelhouse, is without a doubt phenomenal. And like you say, she's the biggest star of the PFL without a doubt.
Yeah.
We had guys we had Stevie Ray in the crowd. With the greatest respect to Stevie Ray, no one would have known he was there unless people going over to our photos, because the PFL didn't push the fact that Stevie Ray was there. I don't know, obviously, on the broadcast if they zoomed in on him or what, but Stevie Ray, a guy who's fighting for £1 million in November on the same card as Kayla, on the same card as Brendan, was in the crowd. And unless you knew we kind of know what to look for. There's a little bit of Liver King. I don't know what this guy's about. I know he was walking around the PFL. He eats raw meat and drinks animal blood. But he was walking around steadied out of his eyeballs without a top on, PFL cap. And more people were looking for a photo with Liver King than they were with Stevie Ray, for example.
Am I out of the loop? Who's Liver King? Is this a fighter?
No idea. No. He's like I have no idea, mate. Honestly, if you're watching this, pause the video, come back to it, because we've got some fire content for you after this. But pause the video and just go and Google Liver King. He's a guy who just drinks blood and eats raw liver. I don't know.
Wow, 1.6 million followers? Holy crap, this guy's huge. Anyway.
Exactly. But this is what I'm saying, there's no doubt that Kayla is the biggest star in the PFL. And I really, really do think, and I'm not just saying this because I interviewed her, they're pushing Dakota Ditchever hard as well. Before her fight, they got a big promo in the arena on her. They had her go to a boxing gym and meet, Caroline Dubois and Ellie Scottney this week. And they're really, really pushing Dakota Ditchever. And, understandably so. First round KO inside 58 seconds. She's got the skill. Speaks fairly well on the mic as well, I think. She was emotional after that win, but now she's going, she's sort of flown the nest, as it were. Yes, she works at Manchester Top Team, but she's an ATT fighter now. And obviously they have a lot of faith in her, because she flew guys out from ATT to be in her corner, and they're pushing her. But like I say, Simeon Powell and Dakota Ditchever for me are the two to look out for. But predictably, Brendan Loughnane and Kayla Harrison stole the show. Really, really good performances from both. And I'm really excited for the November finals now.
We're gearing up. How do you think Kayla does against the next one, against Larissa Pachenko?
Like I say, she's 2-0 against her already, 2 decisions. And she was imploring. If you watch the post-fight interview, I'm sure Tim will link it below. I uploaded it to our YouTube channel, the full post-fight scrum in the media room with Kayla. She's imploring the PFL. She wants everyone to go online and say, PFL, legalize elbows on the ground. Because she said that the only reason that she hasn't finished the 2 fights against Larissa Pacheco is because she knows how to survive on the ground. If you go back and watch those 2 fights, that's exactly what happens. There's so many opportunities for Kayla to rain down elbows, to rain down, heavy strikes. But the rules don't allow her to. If you see her one fight in Invicta, it's a vicious fight because she's allowed to elbow on the ground.
Yeah.
Kayla is imploring the PFL to allow her to elbow on the ground. And I think she wins without a doubt. No disrespect to Pacheco, because she's, you can't score 5 first round knockouts in a row without being highly, highly skilled. But, like Kayla said, as soon as she throws that right hand, she's shooting. And if the first 30 minutes of their careers are anything to go by, if the first 30 minutes of their fights against each other are anything to go by, Pacheco isn't going to be able to defend that takedown.
No.
She doesn't strike me as well as a natural. She could probably make 135 Pacheco if she sort of, made a few adjustments. But Harrison, I had a photo with her. She's huge. She's a ball of muscle. She's massive, and she's a really lovely woman. Took time to speak to everyone in the media off camera as well. She was She was hanging around in the media room, drinking beers with a couple of the guys. But she is a ball of muscle, and like I say, I don't think Pacheco's going to be able to stop the takedown. And if they allow elbows on the floor, I see a finish. If they don't, I could still see a finish, but maybe a submission rather than strikes. You don't, like I say, no elbows on the floor is a strange one for me for PFL. But there's almost no blood on the canvas when we left the arena, so that's probably why they want an easy clear up job.
However, like the idea of no elbows, and it comes from years back in K1. We want these guys to be able to fight through a tournament without getting cut. So, okay, fine, ban elbows. Now, we're not in a one-night tournament anymore, and this upcoming is a tournament final. So you're not having to worry about, like, next month I need to be back in. Maybe it's a tournament final. Maybe allow elbows. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like, completely agree with the fact, you don't want Brendan Loughnane to be coming out looking like, Chucky, because with cuts all over his face. Because that might, it's not really that long. If you think it's the 22nd of August today, you'll probably take the rest of August off, or rest of August off hard sparring. You've got September, October, and then you're into, I know it's at the end of November, but you've got sort of 2.5 months.
Mm-hmm.
Cuts like that might not heal it properly in 2.5 months. So, Brendan was cut up, but he had bloody nose, like swelling to the eyebrow and the orbital. But it is what it is. That shit heals in a week. Give it 2 weeks, and you're pretty much healed.
Yeah.
If you've got big, massive gashes all over the place, it's not gonna heal. Jessica Eye, third eye kind of deal. That's not gonna heal. But like you say, this is a tournament final. These guys aren't fighting again in January, February. It'll be probably March, May, June time, next season that they fight. So to allow elbows on the floor in the finals, and it's almost like we're allowing your full repertoire in the final to really see who is the greatest mixed martial artist. And it's something definitely for PFL to think about.
Could you imagine her with elbows? Kayla with elbows? Just like she's unstoppable with elbows, right?
Yeah, for sure. Like I say, that one fight that she had in Invicta when the PFL released her, I think
she got up and she's covered in blood, and there's the famous shot. Oh,
and she sort of just like, ooh, like I did that, but I didn't want to do that. And like I say, if she can do that in one fight, that's not just a fluke. You don't just, that's not a fluke. She clearly trains with elbows, because that's not just, if I went into a fight and I just started landing random elbows, it's not gonna, the outcome's not gonna be the same. Let's just say that.
Absolutely. Anyway, so PFL was a great show. It's kind of a weird time to be scheduled in London. As like there was an Usyk fight, there was a UFC fight, not quite at the same time. There was also a BKFC fight. Saturday, August 20th was a big, busy one. How full up was the crowd in there? How energetic was the crowd in there?
The crowd was pumped from the first fight. I think because there was a little bit of, we didn't quite know when Dakota Ditchever would be fighting. Originally, she was on the prelims. Then she got bumped up to the main card. But like I say, a lot of people were there for Dakota.
Yeah.
So the crowd were in early because obviously they didn't want to miss her.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the crowd were in early because there were, as much as a nightmare it was, there were tube and train strikes. So I think people wanted to get in the arena early. But there were quite a few empty seats. But I think, I don't think it was promoted all that well, to be honest.
No, I think you're right.
Going through, when I've been to watch the UFC in London a couple of years ago now, before the pandemic, there's signs everywhere. It's on buses. It's everywhere. You're going up the escalators out of the tube stations. It's on billboards and whatnot. I didn't see any PFL stuff until I got right in front of the main doors, and even then, it was a banner. So maybe they just weren't allowed. Maybe speaking to the London Council, they weren't allowed to promote like that. But it's certainly a missed opportunity, because I think the card delivered in a huge way. We had plenty of finishes. It's plenty of finishes, plenty of submissions, and I think plenty of, you want to be there. Let's be honest, we were all saying Kayla Harrison is not going to fight in the UK again, MMA. It's highly unlikely that she's going to fight MMA in the UK again. You want to be there to see that.
Yes. Once in a lifetime.
Dakota Ditchever makes a PFL debut, someone that they're obviously pushing and someone that could very well, go on to be a huge star for the PFL. You want to be there for her PFL debut. Brendan Loughnane, first fight in the UK for years. You want to be there, and I don't think that they promoted it all that well. But no disrespect to the PFL, they had the Cardiff card last week. They've only really had a proper week to promote this London card. But I think going forward, they're in all about Europe next year.
Great.
Definitely going to try and get to one of those European cards. But without a doubt, they should be promoting these European cards because there's really good fighters on these cards. Like I said, Simeon Powell remember the name. He is really good.
I was just looking at it. One decision.
He's only 6-0 or 7-0. Like he's not
7-0, all finishes except for one.
Exactly. And he defeated a guy on Saturday who was also undefeated, at the time. By leg kicks as well. That's the most important bit, by leg kicks.
Amazing stuff. It was a good show, but let's move on to UFC, the big one, the welterweight championship. Did you stay up for this one? Did you get up early? How did you come upon the news of this head kick knockout?
Not a chance, man. I couldn't stay up. I'd spent from 5 till 11 at the PFL.
Yeah.
Had a pretty hellish journey back to the hole that I was staying in, but it is what it is.
I'm not surprised.
I managed to catch the last 4 rounds of the Joshua Usyk fight, saw the decision.
The only rounds that really mattered.
Exactly. And then, went to bed, woke up, first thing I did, straight on my iPad, I watched it backwards because, to be honest, the card overall, the prelims I haven't watched, I haven't had time. They didn't excite me all that much. I watched Rocky and then Paulo Costa, and then I went to a coffee shop and watched Jose Aldo. But, that is what it is. But
you wasted your bandwidth. That wasn't worth it.
Exactly. The Leon Edwards fight.
I can't get enough of this. I can't get enough of his story from where he started, gang life. He's involved in stabbings. His father's murdered. He just keeps getting deeper and deeper. MMA saves his life. And then his career in the UFC, he's talented, but never gets that exclamation mark. Even when they served it up on a platter, he can't get that exclamation mark on his career. He doesn't get a knockout win. He gets one knockout win in the UFC in the last little bit there. But and then he knocks out a guy who's never been knocked out. Absolutely surreal moment. Just the scenes. I can't get enough of this. I cannot get enough of this one.
For sure, it's the story behind it. He was cut. If you remember I don't know if it was a few years back, he was cut from the UFC rankings for inactivity.
Yes, he was.
Through any fault of his own. He had the fight with Tyron Woodley booked, COVID caught, cancelled that one. Yep. He had multiple fights with Chimaev. Do you remember this is the guy that accepted a Chimaev fight when nobody wanted to fight Chimaev, and he never pulled out. It was Chimaev that pulled out twice.
Yeah.
He gets cut from the UFC rankings, comes back against Bilal Muhammad. The unfortunate eye poke against Bilal Muhammad. He then faces Nate Diaz, batters Nate Diaz for 24 and a half minutes. Nate lands one good shot on him, points at him, and suddenly that's the story behind the thing. Gets this title shot. Us guys in the know kind of knew that he had a good chance. I did pick Usman because I couldn't pick with my heart. I generally did think Usman would win.
Yeah.
But I knew that Rocky's keys to victory were clear. It was clear how he could win this one.
Mm-hmm.
And then after such a good first round, becomes the first guy to ever take Usman down. I think that was huge for his psychological game. But then second round, Usman breaks him. Third round, Usman breaks him. Fourth round, Usman breaks him. And then fifth round, he's losing the fight. Dean Thomas on the broadcast, as well as Daniel Cormier and Joe Rogan were. Let's be honest, they were ruling him out. They were saying, look, they were saying a win for Rocky now is just to see the final bell.
I know.
And then, I retweeted on the MMA Sucka account this morning, John Anik shutting down the idea Leon Edwards was content to lose a decision with, that's not the cloth from which he's cut. And then bang, that head kick lands.
John Anik is a pro and a gangster. John Anik is a breath of fresh air in the UFC.
Without a doubt. And, it's just the whole, like you say, the whole story. I broke down the fight, and we'll go through it in a second. But the whole story, that first round, and it's not like it was a fluke takedown and Usman popped straight back up.
No.
If you watch the takedown, I've watched the fight twice now. He takes him down, obviously, with a trip, and Usman looks to post straight away, but Rocky just puts his left hand out, doesn't allow him to post.
Yep.
As Usman's being taken down, he looks to almost sort of suplex Rocky over him, take the momentum. Rocky, lands on the knee, posts out with his left, manages. I don't think the rear naked choke was ever close to being in.
No, but
he's won that first round. He's taken Usman down, psychological 1-0 up already.
And that's insane.
Usman now knows.
Yeah, that's it. No one else is.
Yeah. No, I mean, Colby Covington couldn't do it. Gilbert Burns couldn't do it. Rocky goes out there and does it. And I don't mean to blow my own trumpet, but if anyone saw my tweet, I screenshotted a bit of what I put in my keys to victory, saying, don't be afraid to mix in the wrestling game. More risk averse to completely avoid it, but Edwards does average at least one takedown per 15 minutes.
Yep. He
lands it in the first round, which means that every time that they get into a clinch situation, that's going to be in the back of Usman's head. Is he going to look for the trips? I've got to be a little bit lighter on my feet. And then I'll go into the sort of second point that I made in that further keys to victory piece a little bit later on. But watching the fight again, if you've got a spare 24 minutes, definitely go back and watch it again. Maybe watch rounds 1 and rounds 5, because the 3 rounds in the middle were undisputed Usman rounds. He was struggling. Rocky was struggling in there. He was tired. Not really sure what it was that made him tired, because they were all going on the broadcast about how he'd been in Salt Lake City acclimatizing for 2 weeks. He slept in this sleep chamber,
right?
And yet he was tired.
Yeah, I mean, both of these guys are such cardio machines, but you can still see Salt Lake City just wearing on these two guys by the end. Like you said, Kamaru also adjusted well. Like, I just want to talk about Rocky, but Kamaru did adjust well, but coming out much more aggressive, much more forward. He was actually doing stuff like what you and I both said, Leon will be able to circle out from the back of the cage. He never was. Kamaru was constantly cornering him, which is hard to do in a circle, but he was doing it, right?
Yeah, without a doubt. And one of my keys to victory was lateral movement, and we spoke last week on Rocky's keys to victory is that he can't be corralled up against the cage. He'll use that lateral movement to constantly get off. He'll throw a couple of shots and get off. And like you say, there's a difference between following your opponent that we see. The less skilled fighters, they follow their opponents around, so their opponent's never really in danger. He was cutting off the cage.
Yes.
He wasn't just mirroring what Rocky was doing. He was, when Rocky cuts left, Kamaru cuts to his right. So it's the opposite, and he cuts that off, lands a few strikes. Rocky will go to his right, Kamaru will go to his left, few strikes. He was ripping to the body whilst Rocky was on the fence. And we spoke last week as well about the octagon, inside the octagon, the black line. Kamaru had that black line on his heels for the majority of the second, third, and fourth round, because he was pressing Rocky up against the cage and he wasn't allowing Rocky to get anything off. I think it was, like you say, the first round, definitely a Rocky round, but second, third, and fourth, even just the second, the adjustments that Kamaru made, I think he respected Rocky a little bit too much. And, he came out and really started to go. And I mean, it worked. He was on his way to victory before he wasn't.
No, and we all thought this is kind of just standard of like, I mean, Kamaru is not that extremely strong top position wrestler, but he is relentless in it. Like, as many times as you defend the takedown, you'll get taken down. As many times as you pop back to your feet, you'll just get taken down again. He's tireless when it comes to that sort of stuff. It's just a relentless pace that he put on for 3 rounds. He got the corner advice Leon Edwards did. Stop feeling sorry for yourself. Get out there, light a fire. Like, you need this, right? And just, you can, and then he did it in the last minute.
Without a doubt, it's everything about that fight for me. From we've now, everyone saw that video last week of Rocky throwing elbows against the pads and then landing the left high kick.
Yeah.
people were reading into the fact that he didn't look at Kamaru Usman throughout the whole, the sort of stare down before the fight. He wasn't looking, he was looking at the camera, he was passive, he's going to get knocked out in the first minute. I read online. It's like, oh, come on, guys. Come on. These guys are the top 2 welterweights in the world for a reason. That just because he doesn't look at Kamaru Usman doesn't mean he's lost the fight already.
Mm-hmm.
From the corner advice, giving him his praises in the first round, and then I don't know who his main corner is. I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but
yeah, where does he train? Is it Phoenix or something like that? He trains out of
Renegade in Birmingham. Renegade, yeah. So from just and the advice that he gives him, come on, don't let him bully you. Don't let him bully you. Then come on, let's effing go. You gotta go. You gotta roll the dice. Let your shots fly. And then he lands it. And then the first person in the cage, bang, his brother Fabian. And then, that post-fight speech where he's in tears and he's saying, look what I did. And then he walks backstage and, the photo of the video of him on FaceTime to his mom, we did it. And then that photo, I think either yourself shared it or Calf Kick shared it, of just him sat there, eyes closed with the belt. It's all goosebump inducing stuff. It's fairy tale stuff. And like you say, this is no word of a lie. This is movie stuff from the background that he grew up in, coming over, and he's saying, we're in the trenches. I live about 20 minutes drive away from where Rocky lives in Birmingham. Mm-hmm. And, like anywhere, there's the sort of rougher areas and there's the sort of nicer areas. For Rocky to grow up in that, and, there's a massive thing made for British MMA this weekend of, yes, he's not the first champion. Bisping was the first British champion. Mm-hmm. Rocky did it living in the UK. Bisping, he's with Perillo. Rocky did it. He's the first British-based UFC champion, which I think is huge. That shows that you don't have to, by all means, travel around. He went up to Team Calbon and trained with Darren Till and Colin Heron and the guys up there, still based in the UK. This is huge for UK MMA, and I think, he'll go down as a British MMA legend now, as the first British-based fighter to win the belt. Third time lucky in the welterweight division. Dan Hardy came up short against GSP. Darren Till came up short against Tyron Woodley. Leon Edwards doesn't come up short. If anything, he punches his ticket into, the Hall of Fame of UK MMA without a doubt. If he wasn't there already, he's definitely punched his ticket now.
Without a doubt. Like and the head kick itself, I think, is a good display of, if you know how to throw a kick properly, you don't need to force it through. You don't need to thrust it with a ton of power. It was so quick. It was like a flicking whip. You know what I mean? Of just like everything's aligned all the way through. If you do it technically perfect, which Leon did, there's a ton of power just behind it. You don't need to be forced. Like, if you want to look at a bad kick, like Colby Covington is one of those guys who like pushes it. You know what I mean? But yeah, it was just a flicky kick. Hall of Fame. Oh man, just the future of this. Finally, it's been so long since we've had a British champion or like something really interesting to talk about against in the UK. I'm like, man, this is it. I'm so excited.
Excited. Without a doubt. And like, I completely agree. I mean, I know you watch a lot of kickboxing and follow Glory a lot closer than I do. How many of those guys? These are the elite kickboxers in the world. How many of those guys do you see missing a kick and spinning all the way around? Well, they don't, because they don't put 1,000% power into it. A kick to knockout, as you saw on Saturday night, doesn't have to be 100% power. It can be 40% power, but as long as you land it. When Usman, I mean, I'll go into it in a second. I sort of rewatched the fight yesterday in a more breakdown sort of. I can't watch a fight first time and look to break it down instantly. I have to watch it a second time, and I'm happy to have watched that a second time. Maybe not the second, third, and fourth rounds, but the first and the fifth, I'm happy to watch. But yeah, going back to what you said, you don't have to. It. Sometimes when kicks are thrown with 100% and they land, it looks great. Don't get me wrong, it looks great, and even if they're blocked, it gets through.
Yeah.
With Rocky, he was setting that up, and I'll go into it now. In the first round, it was mainly grappling. Let's be honest, there was a lot of Leon throwing teep kicks. I think he went away from that sort of oblique kick, the sort of stamp to the leg, which I thought he should have maybe kept on doing. We know Kamaru's got sort of knee issues, and that's unfortunately, this is battle. You have to exploit your opponent's weaknesses. As nasty as that sounds, it's got to be done.
You got to do
But
it.
he went away from that, and he landed a few leg kicks in that first round, but nothing major.
Mm-hmm.
In round 2, he landed a pretty good one. It was a 1-2, but he sort of finished it with a sort of more of a hook with 2.5 minutes. 2.5 minutes into round 2. Round 3, lazy high kick, just 27 seconds into the round, and Usman both blocked that high kick and backed up at the same time, something he didn't do when we get to the knockout. And then round 5, I've got nine bullet points about round 5 alone that just show how much actually went on in that round. It wasn't just a fluke head kick that Leon Edwards landed. There was so much in the setup to it. At the 3-minute marks, Leon Edwards throws a 1-2 from the southpaw position. Usman dips off to his right, so he's circling out to his right there. So that's the first tell that Leon's probably picked up on. That right, if I throw 1-2, Kamaru dips off to his right hand side. What happened in the knockout? Dipped off to his right hand side. He hit the body kick soon after that, and Usman claimed it was low. So he's hit the 1-2. Usman's gone off to the right. Now he's throwing a kick to the body.
Mm-hmm.
Usman claimed it was low, which is something that the referees really need to be careful with Usman, because we saw it in the Colby Covington fight. He got away with a fence grab in this one, and the opposite happened. Leon didn't get away with a fence grab; they got put back in the same position. But yeah, Usman got away with a fence grab. He got kicked on the belt line, which is a legal shot, and he got away with it as well in the Colby Covington fight when Colby kicked him on the belt line and Usman claimed it was low. And then as soon as it was shown on the big screen, Usman jumped straight back up and was like, "Yep, I'm ready." It's like, come on, guys. But yeah, so the 1-2, Usman dipping off to his right, and then then Leon hit a body kick. So now Usman's thinking, right, he's kind of landed on me there. He's probably going to go to the body again. With 1 minute 42 left in the round, Leon throws a heavy inside leg kick and then feints another. And Usman's right hand drops to sort of sweep it and parry it away. 1 minute 28 left. Edwards, from the southpaw, he feints a jab, but he sort of uses it as a rangefinder, just touches. He doesn't really throw it as looking to land. He just touches that lead hand of Kamaru Usman to sort of, like I say, it's a rangefinder. He wants to know where Kamaru is.
Mm-hmm.
1 minute 15 left. Big level change. Throughout, Rocky was not looking for the takedowns, but he was kind of just bending, just dropping his weight into, sort of allowing his knees to go a little bit soft and sort of almost squatting down. Big level change and a big feint.
Mm-hmm.
He does this twice and then feints the rear leg attack, and he sort of squares up against Kamaru just to see what the reaction is. 1 minute 10. He steps through with the rear leg and doesn't throw the quick. He squares up, dips back into the southpaw stance before throwing an inside leg kick. Again, Usman looks to do that. We've seen it with Yoel Romero, the big over-the-top sort of sweep, looking to sweep that away. Usman does that, obviously not as much as Yoel, but, he looks to sweep that away. 1 minute 6 left. He throws a lazy jab. Now, this next piece is, for me, the most important strike, aside from the knockout, that Edwards throws. Earlier on, he threw that sort of feinting jab and just touched the lead hand of Usman. 1 minute 2 left in the round. He's got 1 minute until he loses the fight. Let's be honest, he loses the fight, probably 4-1. He won the first round, he's lost the last. He was losing that 5th round. He just touches Kamaru's lead hand, just sort of reaches out and touches it. Doesn't try and throw a jab. It's an open hand, so he just touches that lead hand.
Mm-hmm.
And then the knockout, he dummies the jab, shows the left hand. Kamaru parries the left hand. Bang, he lands that high kick. It's not a fluke head kick knockout. Everything that Rocky did for me set up that, he was constantly, like I say, he throws a 1-2 with 3 minutes left in the round, sees Kamaru dip off to the right. What happened with the knockout? He threw a 1-2, or Kamaru thought he was throwing a 1-2. He threw the 1, sort of stepped through with a 2, and then landed the high kick. Kamaru dipped off to his right like he did, 2 minutes before, and Rocky lands that high kick and knocks him out. You constantly using the jab to or using the lead hand, I should say, like we saw in the Usyk fight, but constantly using that lead hand as that lead hand of Rocky's was active, and he used it twice. Once as a rangefinder and didn't sort of act upon that, and then the second time, literally 2 seconds, 3 seconds before the knockout comes, he uses that, touches Kamaru's right hand, and sees that Kamaru doesn't sort of react to that. Kamaru doesn't move out, it doesn't back up, doesn't look to parry that strike. It's just a rangefinder. He just touches the hand. So Rocky knows now, if I touch his hand again, he's probably going to think there's a strike coming. So, the inside leg kick, you landed 13 of 13 leg kicks throughout. Kamaru, he hasn't thrown. I watched the fight. He did not. I'm pretty sure. I'd have to watch it again to be 100%. But I'm pretty sure Rocky didn't throw a single high kick for the entire fight, aside from the one that he landed, the infamous one now for Kamaru that he landed. He's landed 13 of 13 inside leg kicks, which were doing well. He's landed a body kick about 1.5 minutes, 2 minutes before he lands the high kick. Kamaru, yes, you've got to expect that the high kick's going to come. But if he hasn't thrown one, why hasn't he thrown one? Well, this is why. Because he's obviously saving it up almost for the last minute of the fight. Like I say, 13 of 13 inside leg kicks. He's just landed a body kick, which, like I say, landed. He's found the range. He throws the jab, sort of steps through. He shows him the left. Kamaru parries it. If you watch it in slow motion or from a different angle, he parries it away, and then Rocky lands that high kick, and it's the high kick that was, heard around Britain. Let's be honest, you heard around the world. Rocky, huge for Rocky, huge for. It's a Rocky story. It's a Rocky story.
But no, I love the technical breakdown as well of just like this is, and it's so this like P's and Q's, dot your I's, cross your T's of like this is when you don't have to worry about the takedown, which he was. Those are the kinds of things that you can do. It isn't just a lot of like 1-2 feinting a 1-2, like I'm just gonna keep kicking your body, right? Wink, wink, wink. Like it seems like it seems so basic, but we're at the highest levels. We're at the top of the pound for pound ladder here, where championships are on the line. The technical stuff, if you do it properly, it still works. You know what I mean? And that's for sure. Breaking down. Like there wasn't, and that was a great breakdown as well. And we're just talking about like he didn't kick the body when he expected to.
Yeah, exactly. And it's completely to sort of echo what you said earlier. It was one of the few times that Rocky was actually pressing forward in the fight, aside from the first round. Like you said earlier, Kamaru made the adjustments in the second round and pushed Rocky all the way back.
Yeah,
this was in the if we've all seen the knockout. I've seen it probably in the region of 500 to 600 times now. I could just I'll just click play and I'll just watch it for half an hour. Bang, whoop, bang, whoop, bang.
Best.
And then sometimes I even pretend to myself like Usman's going to block this and he's going to shoot the double. Oh no, it lands. Oh no, it lands. Like
this time, it's still in.
Exactly. I don't know why the 400th time I watch it, I still think that he might just block it and just carry on dipping and bobbing. But no, if you watch if you look aside, watch the knockout 10 times, enjoy the knockout 10 times. But on the 11th, look at where in the octagon Kamaru Usman's lay. He's the one that's being backed up. He's the one with, not with his back against the fence, but Rocky's the one with all of the octagon behind him.
Yep.
It's the first time we saw that in 3 rounds, 3.5 rounds, because for the second round, third round, fourth round, pretty much, aside from that one strange takedown, I think it was in the third where Kamaru looked to dummy the takedown and Rocky didn't really react, and he was kind of just holding Rocky's leg. It's like, okay, okay, if you're giving me this, I'll take you down. That was strange. But all of the takedowns came against the cage.
Yeah.
Rocky had his back against the cage.
Yep.
That 5th round, as his coach asked him to, he let his hands go. He let his kicks go, and it paid dividends.
It really did. And last week we broke down of the biggest question in this fight because of how well matched they are. It'll actually be octagon control will be a major factor going into this fight. And it was. Whoever was controlling the center was winning the fight consistently, whether, one way or another. Now, the question is the rematch. Leon Edwards is going to have a ton more confidence this time around, which I think he needed, honestly. But it's just kind of like Frankie Edgar, BJ Penn, where like Frankie just came back the second time. Once he realized where the openings were, he was so much better the next time he faced BJ Penn? Or is it the other way around where like Kamaru, he's already has the game plan. He already has exactly what he needs. He just needs to do it for 5 rounds. I don't entirely know what the answer is. I think in a rematch, I'd still pick Leon Edwards. And I picked Leon Edwards the first time. I didn't see it like this, but I definitely picked him.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, in his training camp, he needs to spend the entire training camp with his back up against the fence with wrestlers trying to take him down, because he couldn't defend Usman's takedowns from the clinch.
No, not at all.
He landed 5 takedowns and clocked up 10 minutes, 36 seconds control time, which drained Rocky's gas tank.
Yeah.
Say what you will about sleeping in a altitude chamber and getting out there 2 weeks before. Rocky was knackered going into that final round, and a huge part of that was the altitude, but an even bigger part of that was probably 190, 195 pound guy lying on top of you, landing strikes on you, weighing in on you. I think Rocky didn't do anything to gain Kamaru Usman's respect until he landed that huge. Well, I mean, aside from the takedown, but as far as striking is concerned, aside from landing the head kick, he didn't gain Kamaru's respect with any huge strikes. Yes, he landed a couple of 1-2s, but we've never really seen Kamaru Usman rocked. We saw him rocked against Gilbert Burns, maybe saw him rocked once or twice against Colby Covington. We've never seen him rocked like that. I mean, of course, we've never seen him knocked out. So you need to gain Kamaru Usman's respect. I think Rocky's going to have that going into that second fight. It's going to be pivotal. If Rocky beat him by decision and they do the rematch, and he just outpointed him by jabbing and staying on the outside, for example, he still doesn't have that sort of fear factor. Kamaru Usman, that photo alone is now iconic in MMA, but in British MMA especially. But that photo alone is now iconic. The way he went out with his eyes open, awful to see. But
I'm so happy Rocky didn't follow up and do some ground and pound as well. Like he knew.
Like you say.
Like now you can replay that on every network and it's safe. It doesn't look terrible that you're beating up a dead guy.
Exactly, for sure. And I'm sure we'll get different photos come out in the next few days of Kamaru lying there with Rocky kind of just having landed the head kick and sort of almost just stood over him.
Yeah.
Elation for Rocky Edwards. But in the rematch, Kamaru's got to mind his P's and Q's because he knows that can happen now. If I'm Rocky, like I say, I put my back up against the fence and I train the entire fight. Because in the stand-up game, it was very close. Yes, I think he needs to be more active in the rematch because he wasn't particularly active in this one. Rocky only landed 55 significant strikes. 64 total strikes were landed by Rocky Edwards in comparison to 189 of Kamaru.
Absolutely. I think
it doesn't really matter as long as that head kick lands, but the more active he is, the more difficult it's going to be for Kamaru to land that takedown. If you constantly got something in your face, the step-in knee from Rocky throughout was, I thought, really good. He was really landing that step-in knee, and I think he needs to go back to that in the rematch.
Actually, the step-in knee did that was significant a few times. And I know it maybe led to clinching and stuff like that, but I think Kamaru he sustains damage well, but sometimes so when you notice that it hurt him, you actually do see it quite a bit. Those step-in knees were working here, right?
Yeah, for sure. And
but yeah,
I just think that I don't care who you are, if you get stepped in knee by someone that trains how to knee and someone with the Muay Thai game of Leon Edwards, it's gonna hurt. It's gonna be rough. You're not gonna enjoy it. And that showed on it showed, and it was pretty clear for all to see that it was affecting Usman, but not enough to stop the fight.
Yep.
But I don't want to blow my own trumpet, but I do want to just go back to that last bullet point of my
go on.
of my piece. Further keys to victory. Second bullet for first key to victory. Don't be afraid to mix in the wrestling game. We saw that in the first round. It kept Kamaru thinking. Second key to victory. Don't lose faith. Even if Usman's dominating in the wrestling game early and looking to stall, which you could argue that he was, Edwards has to believe he can win it for as long as the fight lasts.
Yep.
1 minute left. Head kick. Because it said here, similarly, you can't get too comfortable if you're either head in the fight because we know the champion can end things in one shot. Flipped on its head. Leon ended it. One shot is all it took. And huge. huge.
It is just amazing. It's still surreal, even talking about it at length. Like I feel like we're not saying enough of just like how surreal this is, and whatever awards we want to give out, upset of the year, knockout of the year. This is one of the better knockouts of the decade. Any head kick knockout in the UFC, even if it's on the undercard, is extremely notable for how rare it is. And now we see it against a pound for pound king and a guy who was down 3 rounds to 1. And it just makes history. The second British UFC champion in history. What? Come on. What do we say here? Right?
I mean, for me, apologies, Molly McCann, but you've got to give it knockout of the year this far.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that you've got to take into account the caliber of fighter that you're fighting. No disrespect to Luana Carolina, but she's not Kamaru Usman.
Yes,
Kamaru Usman has never been dropped. He has never been knocked out. He's never been knocked out. He's been finished once by a rear naked choke, but that is what it is. That wasn't in the UFC. He's never been knocked out. He's never been dropped. Rocky Edwards going into this one, he got rocked by Nate Diaz last time out. He got dropped by Brian Barberena. We've seen his vulnerabilities. Kamaru Usman has never shown a vulnerability in the striking range, apart from maybe that one shot from Gilbert Burns that lasted all of about 15 seconds.
Yep.
Rocky knocked him out cold with one strike. And it wasn't like he's constantly landing that head kick over and over. Rocky knocked him out cold with one strike. That's all it took.
Unreal. It is unreal. But I did mention maybe they do a rematch, and we kind of broke it down, and that'll be like a long lead up. Do they even do a rematch, or it's got to be like Hamzat? It's got to be Hamzat. Maybe Giblert is still out there. I don't know what Colby's up to, but suddenly that division got interest.
Yeah, now, without a doubt, it's
still there.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's really difficult. I think they've got to do a rematch because that's just how they do it. Although Khamzat's easily the next contender if he beats Nate next month, which I'd assume that he does. I think Khamzat Colby's the fight to make because that Colby's got far more keys to victory than Nate Diaz has against Khamzat Chimaev.
Oh my God, yeah. Come on.
You can't make 6 title defenses in a row in the dominant fashion that you have if you're Kamaru Usman and not expect and be pound for pound king and not expect an immediate rematch. It's a trilogy fight as well, which will sell. And it's not like, we saw Amanda Nunes, Juliana Pena too. That was total domination. It wasn't even close. The fact that Kamaru Usman was 1 minute away from winning this fight and Rocky pulls it out is what makes that rematch so interesting. With that being said, Usman's not getting any younger.
No, he's
still going to have his knee problems. He's just had surgery on his hand, which is possibly, we don't know. That's why he wrestled a lot more in this one. He's just been knocked out cold, and he won't be competing now for. I can see this headline at International Fight Week 2023. I don't think they'll fight. Rocky's not opposed to having a lot of time off in between fights. Claim that ring rust wasn't a thing. Kamaru needs to. Yeah, exactly. Kamaru needs to. Well, he's forced into taking time off now. But then he also needs to take some extra time off. The doctor will probably say, no hard sparring for 2 months. Well, he needs to. That's not just a knockout. That's not a TKO knockout. That's not just any old knockout. That is a brutal knockout.
It is.
And let's compare that to when Jose Aldo got knocked out by Conor McGregor. He came back 7 months after that.
Yep.
7 months from now puts us in what sort of March time, where they usually do a UFC card in London. But that's usually a fight night card. They can't do it at the O2. It's too small.
Yeah.
They could sell out a stadium in the UK without a doubt.
You
put Paddy Pimblett, you put Molly McCann, you put I don't think as a return fight, Tom Aspinall as a co-main event, I don't think he'd say no to that in a Tottenham Hotspur stadium. I don't think it does Wembley 80,000, 90,000. Don't think it does that. But let's be honest, Tottenham Hotspur Stadium is or Principality in Wales. That's not a long trip for most of the UK in comparison to putting it in Las Vegas, for example.
Yes,
they could sell out a stadium with this as the main event, Tom Aspinall as the co-main, without a doubt. And I think that they should. The UK fans deserve it. We haven't had a pay-per-view here since Bisping Henderson, and that was at 4 a.m.
Yeah, that was BS. Like, man, you got man, we've talked about that so much of just like if you're doing it in a local market, do it. Otherwise, just do it in Vegas. Like, stop. I'm not getting up at 4 in the morning, even if it's in my own backyard.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, I don't know what they do with that. I think the UFC needs to spike that lead that they have with like Paddy Pimblett, Molly McCann, now Leon Edwards. You guys have been past the football. There's a breakaway. I'm mixing up all my sports here. I'll just stick to what I know. You've been past the hockey puck and you've got a breakaway ahead of you. Make sure to do it or don't just pass backwards. But like they have a major opportunity to make the UK like a consistent major market here. Like this is a major opportunity they have ahead of them, and they didn't do it with Bisbane. They didn't do it with when they had the opportunities with other fighters. You just want to see them do it. Like run with what you got, right?
Yeah, for sure. And we've got Molly McCann booked for the November 12th card the November card in MSG. Paddy Pimblett will also be on that card inevitably.
Absolutely.
April, May time next year, they'll both be ready from their fights, as will Rocky, as will Tom Aspinall. Yes, he had the knee problems, as will Darren. Can you imagine a main card of Rocky headlining? Tom Aspinall, Darren Till, Paddy Pimblett, and Molly McCann?
No, literally no. I cannot imagine. But
I mean, that unfortunately that'll never happen. But just those 5 fights. No prelims, no undercard. I'm happy with just those 5 fights. I'd pay to go and watch that.
Oh, absolutely.
But like you say, they need to take advantage of the stock that they've got now. They've got Leon Edwards as a champion, a British-based champion. We've got Paddy Pimblett, probably one of the top 10 stars in the company.
Yep.
After 3 fights, you got Molly McCann, one of the most recognizable women in the company, despite only recently breaking into the top 15. Tom Aspinall, who, a lot of people are going to see him as potentially sort of undefeated in the UFC. He's got that loss to Curtis Blades, but he wasn't beaten. His body gave up on him. Darren Till still going to be a huge name, and he brings out something else. He brings that storyline of former, champion, former title challenger coming back who needs a win. You've got Nathaniel Woods on the Paris card. We've got plenty of UK talent, and the UFC need to utilize it. They really need to. Yeah, why wouldn't they? PFL put on a really good card this weekend. Bellator constantly come to the UK or at least in Europe. They have Bellator Birmingham, Newcastle. They do a couple of London shows
all the time. Yeah,
the UFC need to tap into this market because they've got the biggest UK stars. Paul Daly no longer fights for Bellator. They've lost that UK star. Yes, you got MVP, but he's doing what he does. MVP. He's going to MVP. You've got Anthony Joshua, who's no longer a world champion in boxing.
Yeah.
You hold all the cards in combat sports in the UK, utilize it, because if you don't, it's a completely missed opportunity, in my opinion.
Oh, entirely agreed with you. I really hope to see it, and I'm being selfish. Like, come up to Glasgow, come up to Edinburgh. We got some arenas here. Just go.
I'm willing to travel. I am willing to travel to. I was on a train yesterday to Edinburgh. Unfortunately, I did have to get off at Coventry, where I live. But I'll sit on the train for another 10 hours just to get up there to watch Leon Edwards fight.
What's funny about the way London and the UK works? It's probably cheaper for you to come to Edinburgh than it is to just somewhere else in London. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure, without a doubt. I mean, like I say, the room that I had for the PFL was something. It's a learning curve because now I'm willing to pay considerably more for a room that doesn't stink of cigarettes for someone that doesn't smoke, has its own bathroom. It's not too much to ask, but it is what it is.
Yes, it is. I mean, never mind. We won't go there. But yeah, let's spare some minutes. Maybe we got 10 minutes left or so. Usyk Joshua 2. Great fight. Honestly, the first half of the fight, I'll give it this was not bad. This was okay. Then the back half of this fight, things start really picking up. You have Joshua having the best round out of the 24 rounds that these two men have shared. This was Joshua's best work. He actually almost scored a knockdown a couple of times in this fight. But then you see Usyk coming back, throwing multitudes of combinations in response and nearly scoring a knockdown almost every round, kind of 9 through 10. This one was a great fight. The back half of this fight was a classic. This was a ton of fun. What do you think of this one?
Yeah, so I missed the first 6 rounds I was listening to on the radio in the Uber back to my room from PFL. Luckily, PFL finished as as Joshua was making his ring walk. So I managed to quickly jump in an Uber, get back, and
Nice.
watch the final sort of 5 or 6 rounds. I
Yep.
think was it the 8th that Joshua started really working the body and almost getting that knockdown.
Yes, he did. That's correct.
After that, he completely took his foot off the gas.
I know.
Whether he gassed himself out doing that, whether Usyk looked like he took that round off, as that was the round that Joshua looked to really impose his game. So I think that probably looked visually a lot worse for Usyk than it probably was. I think he kind of took that round off as Joshua really put his foot down.
Mm-hmm.
But then why wasn't he saw the success? We spoke about body punching. If you're not going to be able to hit the head of Usyk, what doesn't move? The body. Why didn't he look to work the body from early? These are all questions in hindsight, but I think what really
landed
ruined
authority when he threw it. It was landing consistently too.
And he's as his post-fight antics, we'll go on to talk about that in a second, suggested, he's not a small guy. He's a 17, 18 stone guy.
Yeah, he's pretty big.
Slam the body. Usyk can't. If you corral Usyk into a corner, yes, you might receive a few shots, but you're slamming that body. It's going to slow Usyk down.
Yeah.
And I just don't really know why he took his foot off the gas. Because, like you say, he almost scored a knockdown, and then in the 9th round, how he didn't go down. I mean, fair play to him. I tip my hat to him because there were some huge shots landed by Usyk, massive.
Yes.
And I don't know how he didn't go down, like I say, but he had a brilliant round in the 8th.
Yep.
Like you say, best round of the 24 that they fought without a shadow of a doubt.
Yep.
And then he just takes his foot completely off the gas. Doesn't really look like he fancies, doing that again. And then in the 10th, same. I think his foot was still off the gas. And then he begins to try and get back into it in the 11th and the 12th, but it's too little, too late. And split decision was a joke. But
fuck was that? And I knew, I was like, this is something.
British boxing, and it's British. I know it's not in Britain, but it's British boxing.
How did you see 7? No, it was like 8 rounds to 5 or something like that. Well, how? That's a load of garbage. There's no.
Unless you're exclusively looking at what lands on Usyk rather than what Usyk's throwing. That's the only way you can score that in favor of Joshua.
You're right. If you're watching half the fight, yes.
Yeah, for sure. If you watch the 8th round 6 times, well, okay, I get that. Yeah, fair enough. But that, luckily, the right guy won. I'm glad because if that would have gone in the way of Joshua, we've got an issue there. But luckily we don't have to talk about judges scoring too much because the right guy got his hand raised. It's not the point. That judge needs to be looked at. But it is what it is. But the post-fight antics for Joshua really took away from the shine of the fight itself, in my opinion.
So I turned it off. What the hell? He talked for 10 minutes. I saw on Twitter people were like, he's just been talking for 10 minutes. He's just talking.
For sure.
What's going on here?
I was the same as you. Saw Usyk get his hand raised. Happy days.
Done.
It's going to be standard post-fight. Joshua, I did my best, and he didn't get it.
Yeah.
Went to bed. Woke up the next day, checked Twitter. Thought, what is going on here? So he had a full-blown tantrum after he lost the fight. He got the Ring magazine that was obviously on the line, and I think the IBO about chucked them out of the ring.
Sure.
He stormed. A decent performance from Joshua, and he completely ruined it. He took the belts, threw them out of the ring, stormed off almost into the back, then came back, stole the mic off Usyk. That awkward thing with the Ukrainian flag that he was kind of, he was Usyk. I don't know. He was kicking off backstage with people, just random people that when he was walking back to his locker room. Usyk could have and probably should have made the post-fight all about him. I've won the fight. Yeah. I want to really put the message out there about Ukraine and the fight for freedom, and because he is a star in Ukraine, and now he's on the world. All the eyes are on this. He could have really made a statement about Ukraine's fight for freedom and Ukraine situation with Russia. Instead, all the headlines are Joshua saying, just rambling on, and I don't know. I hope Joshua's got the right people around him.
I don't know.
To sort of switch him back on and say, look, mate, you got beaten by the better man. You're still probably top 5 heavyweights out there. I think Wilder and Usyk are on a different level.
Mm.
And then you've got Fury and Usyk on a different level, and then you've got Joshua, Wilder, Dillian White, maybe an Andy Ruiz if he can get through. Luis Ortiz. You've got Joe Joyce, Daniel Dubois.
Mm.
They're still, like we talked about Dominic Cruz last week. There's still huge fights out there for Anthony Joshua and winnable fights.
Yeah.
But if he faces Fury, if he faces Usyk, I expect more tantrums. I don't want to see a third Usyk fight ever. I
No.
don't think it's close. It never gets close because Usyk is only going to get more used to that heavyweight frame. Joshua's not going to get any better, I don't think, than he is now.
No, I don't think. I think
Fury,
he's on the other
facing.
side of his career. Like he's not in his physical prime, which is crazy to say because he's not old or anything like that. But I still think he's in his physical prime. But we've seen over 24 rounds. I know who's the better boxer. I don't need to
without a doubt.
confirm it again. Like I know who's better.
Without a doubt, and he had the size on Usyk. With Fury, he doesn't have the size on Fury.
No.
Fury's got a huge size advantage over him, so it's. I think the Fury fight's a bad fight for him, but Fury, it doesn't look like he's going to retire, which means that Fury Usyk, and that's again, if that ever gets announced, and we'll break it down on here, and it's an exciting fight. But yeah, Joshua, disappointed in Joshua post fight. Very, very impressed with his actual in-fight because he did gamble in that 8th round. He gambled and he tried. He tried something slightly new. Don't know why he tried to outbox Usyk because that was never going to happen. But he did try different things with Robert Garcia in his corner. But impressed with his performance, disappointed by his post-fight.
Agreed. Yeah, and Usyk, he said, "I'm going to fight Fury, or I'm not going to fight anybody." And that's when you hold all the cards. Fine, make those gambles. And I don't know if they actually make the fight just because of the way these kind of bureaucratic things work. I genuinely don't know, but I am confident in saying that even after this like amazing whirlwind run, this Usyk high that we've been on for a little while now, Fury wins that fight.
I think so. I think he's the more technical than Joshua, but he holds the same size as Joshua, and he probably comes in, like I said last week, I think he comes in really heavy for that one and looks to be the bigger bully in there against Usyk. And, we'll have to wait and see, but I think that's probably how that one plays out.
Yeah, agreed with you. Okay, so we got one championship this Friday. Otherwise, I don't know. Is there anything else going on this weekend? I'm just kind of this is a big 1 week for me, so this will be a big week, but I don't know what else is going on.
Yeah, we've got. Yeah, I mean it's one championship, isn't it? Really, this week, the return of DJ versus Adriano Moraes 2. Obviously, we've all seen the still almost of DJ knocked out from that first fight.
That was great.
It's a really good card. It's on Prime Video, so if you're an Amazon Prime subscriber, happy days.
Yeah. So it's only for the US and Canada. If you're outside those two countries, whether you're in Thailand or Singapore or the UK, it is a pay-per-view event. Weirdly enough, which is
I didn't. Oh, I seem to remember them doing a pay-per-view, but I didn't know that this was. Am I right? I think this is their first pay-per-view.
1X in March was their big.
Oh, of course, yeah, the big Rod Tang DJ.
Yeah,
I was interested to see this is DJ's first fight MMA since losing to Adriano Moraes. That seems ages ago. Obviously, he had that.
I know.
I say first fight MMA. He had that little bit of MMA, a little bit of Muay Thai, a little bit of MMA, a little bit of Muay Thai with Rod Tang last time out.
Yeah,
but I'm excited for this one.
Me too, actually. It's going to be a fun.
I'll definitely see. When is it? Saturday.
So yeah, they do 160 at 8 a.m. ET, and then they're going to do one on Prime Video 2 at 8 p.m. ET. So they're just doing one event and then another event 12 hours later in the same building, which is a cool way. If you're trying to target Americans, yeah, sure. Put it on their time zone. Good thinking. But
yeah, without a doubt. Yeah. So I'll definitely catch it. Be looking to catch the highlights. Not quite sure if I'll be watching it live because of the time. But it is what it is. You've got, as far as British is concerned, you've got Jonathan Haggerty and Liam Harrison on the card. Exciting.
I know. I'm excited. Because I really like one's Muay Thai and kickboxing, so it's really good because they have some of the best in the world in those classes. Who else is on? Amber Kitchen, daughter of Julie Kitchen, is also fighting on it. She's one to watch in the UK kickboxing scene. As far as their MMA goes, I don't know.
Yeah, aside from DJ, I think if you miss any of the MMA fights on that, it's not the end of the world. You've got Christian Lee, obviously, the day before, the 12 hours before, and Tanley. But apart from that,
I love Tom Lee. Tom Lee is a cool guy. I think he deserves some success here. I hope he does well.
Especially after coming off, I think he's going to have a lot more eyes on him coming off that Gary Tonin win, because people follow the jiu-jitsu guy over to MMA.
Yeah,
he loses. Now, why don't you follow the guy that beat him? It's and deservedly so, in my opinion. I think I echo what you do. He's lost twice in his career. Twice in his career.
Yeah.
Did not realize he was on the Ultimate Fighter.
But... No, he was something like that, and I'm not sure why the UFC actually didn't sign him, because I thought he did well in like Tough or Contender or whatever it was. But yeah. No, he's a good.
They certainly regret it now. He's gone 9-1 since.
Right. And his career, 90% knockout. In this fight, he's fighting Tang Kai, who's won like 82% of his fights by knockout. So it's going to be a fun one. Oak Rayun and Christian Lee. I don't know. I don't know why I don't like Christian Lee that much. He threw a little hissy fit last time that he lost the title. Now he gets the rematch. Okay. I hope Oak wins.
Am I right in thinking that he's Angela Lee's brother?
Yeah.
I think they're just trying to promote that family out of, because they've also got a younger sister who's very young, don't they? 18.
Yeah.
18. I can't remember her name off the top of my head.
Victoria Lee, and they promote her in the.
Yeah.
This is the thing of sometimes we talk about with one championship. But I like one, but sometimes you guys need to calm down, because she made her debut and they were like, Tiger Woods was 18, Wayne Gretzky was 18, she's only 16. Like, dude, calm down. It's her first fight. You're comparing Tiger Woods.
Exactly. I think, like you say, with Christian Lee and respect, obviously, at the top of the game, but they're pushing the family name rather than maybe those that deserve it slightly more than Christian Lee after, he just dropped the belt. So why not give it to someone else, see if he can... No. One's going to win. One's going to win. But it's an exciting, like we said, if you can catch it, it's an exciting fight card, especially the Muay Thai fights on Prime Video 1 or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah. Cosign. The Muay Thai and kickboxing on it is just prime 10 out of 10 stuff. Okay, let's get out of here for the week. Myself, Frazer Krohn, MMA Sucka. Thanks so much for your time, Frazer.
Thank you very much.